Thank you guys again for joining me for another episode of Solicited Advice. Two of these interviews in one day. I tell you, it is amazing the collaborations and all the great people that I have been connecting with for Women's History Month. So, this is really an exciting time for me and for a lot of my collaborators. So, before we get into today's conversation around kindness, there's so much going on right now in the world. We're hearing about wars and just a lot of political upheaval. So it's so important to think about kindness. And so I'm so excited for my guests to join us today and talk about that subject. But before we get to that conversation, I want to shout out some women that are in my tribe while we are uh, really focusing on Women's History Month. So I want to shout out Renee Hudson. She is actually a veteran. And these are like little dice that they tell you, like you can roll them and they say, I attract love, or some of them, I desire happiness, if it's hard for you to see. But anyway, I just wanted to highlight this because as we're thinking about our health, sometimes we don't think about, ways that we can be intentional with our mindset, the things that we can start intentionally thinking about. So I had never seen these dice before, but I went to one of her events and I actually won it as a door prize. So I want to shout her out because she's very active on LinkedIn. She does a lot of conferences and participates with a lot of things around mental health and the veteran community. Then I have Supermom Fuel. This was a cup that I got from my daughter, who was actually a single mom. She travels internationally. She has her own content on YouTube, Taylor's Journey. She shows how being a single mom still allows you to live your dreams and travel and go all over the world internationally. She works in the healthcare industry, but she's very fortunate to be able to have remote position for certain times of the day and she of the week, I'm sorry, and she maximized that time by international travel. So I want to shout her out. And you don't have to fill it up with coffee. You can put some water in it, okay? Now, really excited to talk about kindness. I actually got acquainted with Robin through a live stream. So I do want to highlight the value in collaborating with a live stream. So she was actually on camera. I was simply in the comments. So she was saying some amazing things. I was commenting to that and engaging. And so we got together on a Zoom call, and now we're here to talk about kindness. So I am going to yield the mic to you, Robin, for you to introduce yourself. And thanks so much for being here.
It's absolutely my pleasure, and thank you for the kind introduction. I just love having these conversations because the more we talk about kindness, the more it amplifies, the more people find it. It becomes the norm,
Yeah.
and that's what we want—a world where kindness is the norm. So, very brief, précis about me. I am the founder of a business called Choose the Tude, which is all about attitudes and choosing your attitude. That is actually a high performance culture consulting company. I design kind cultures for businesses. And I chose that angle because businesses are full of people, adults, and we, as the adults, are the role models for the emerging generation. So the long term game is generational, systemic generational change, but starting with us, the adults. And I'm also the creator of the Kind Community Project, which is a passion project of mine. And that is actually, it's a platform that I've put together to connect people who are interested in collaborating to create kindness in the world and to amplify it across the world. So everyone's welcome to join that one.
Love that. Love that. And I love the name of your business, Choose the Tude. I think, what made you come up with that? Because I know I went through 13 years of depression, three hospitalizations, and I just didn't realize that I had a choice for how I wanted to show up. I was just on this hamster wheel of survival mode, and it just didn't even come to my mind that I had a choice about my attitude. So, how did you come up with that name?
A great question. So actually, I started that business over 20 years ago. And when I started it, it was a high performance business, high performance coaching business for women who were doing really well, but they wanted to
Mhm.
get to that next level and didn't know how. And what I realized was, look, I had noticed that a lot of people were blaming their circumstances on things external to themselves.
Mhm.
So the government, their boss, their parents, their partner, their children, whatever it was, but it was never about them. And actually, once you've got no control over what anyone else is doing, and they have no control over you. So it's more about um, understanding that choice is a personal thing. It's an internal thing. No one else can make your choices for you. Now, there are lots of circumstances where choice may feel like it's been taken away from you, but at the end of the day, we still get to take responsibility for and control over how we respond to things. So, and that again is a choice. So, yeah, there are some really tricky situations, and life is not easy, right? Life can be really hard.
It really can.
And yeah, so it's
I
in those
love
moments that I feel like, if you had learnt this earlier, then maybe you would have been able to avoid some of those situations and circumstances. But so I'm passionate about sharing stuff that I wish I knew earlier, and that's
Isn't
one of
that the
them.
truth? I say, look, I'm the biggest poster child, right? I'm wearing the T-shirt, I'm raising my hand, I'm doing all the things because I've experienced it. But I think also, I was listening to this lady about a month ago, and she was saying that, we really don't make mistakes, we make choices. And so, whatever choice we make, we have an outcome based on those choices. So, I really appreciate you putting it front and center because even though we go through life and challenges and traumas and things of that nature, a lot at least in my case, it was self-inflicted, right? Me saying yes when I really should be saying no, or going to bed instead of staying up, trying to do, 1,000 things. It's a certain level of productivity that actually stops, but you're still up thinking that you're getting something done, right? You need to just go to bed. So there's a number of things that I learned the hard way. So for somebody who, is in that space of not really feeling the ability to take accountability, for their choices and things like that, what would you say to them about making that shift to understand the power of choice?
Oh, great question. And there are lots and lots of levels there. So I'll keep it as simple as I can. So
Hmm.
from a neurology point of view,
Hmm.
uh, you actually, or actually a psychology point of view, you actually need to make the choice to choose. So I know that sounds a little bit strange, but if so, I mean, you may have come across someone in your life where they're having a rough time, or maybe there's a work colleague or something like that, and they're just not taking responsibility for their actions and choices.
Hmm.
Um, we can spend all our time and effort trying to convince them that they need to change, right? But until they actually choose to change, like in that very it's a micro moment that they choose to change, like really choose,
Hmm.
nothing is gonna change. So it is very much a case of it's a personal internal thing. Um, I mean, we look at people that have addictions, alcoholism, for example. You can tell them till they're black and blue that they need to go and get help, but until they
Hmm.
actually internally make that choice, nothing's going to change. So we can help people by talking about things,
Hmm.
but probably more so role modeling. Now, you touched on something before about the self care. You didn't call it self care, but going to bed instead of staying up until to whatever time in the morning trying to get stuff done.
Hmm.
Self care is number one. And look, look, it took me a long time to learn that.
Yeah.
Definitely not perfect. And that's what I love about people. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
And that's what makes us different, unique, fun, all of that kind of stuff. But
Hmm.
self care is a big thing, and it's not selfish. Self care is by far nowhere near, not even close to being selfish. In fact, it's probably more selfish not to have self-care. Because and look, I can talk from personal experience. I got incredibly sick because I was in a corporate role for a little while,
Mhm.
4 years out of my 30-something year career, and during that, I just kept at this level. I was just going, going, going. I had 2 little kids at home, doing all the family stuff, the kids stuff, did not take a moment for self-care, and what do you know? Fell over,
Yeah.
really badly, really badly. So I'm just sharing this because it happens, if we don't choose to
Mhm.
have self-care. And in that case, I was being selfish by not doing the self-care, because what happened was I then had nearly 2 years of people having to look after me.
Yeah.
So, I'm talking serious stuff. And, so that's not fair on my family.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
self-care is not selfish. It's selfish if you're not doing it, in my
Uh,
opinion.
hey, I totally resonate with what you're saying. And I think that is so true that you just have to make that choice that you want something different, And for many people, there's a lot of pressure feeling like, okay, I want to change and this feeling that you have to do it alone. And I know for my case, it's about having community, as you mentioned, with your kind community. That is the thing. Hey, it's not like the fear goes away from getting out of your comfort zone. You just do it afraid. And if you have to, you do it afraid with other people or with a friend or something like that. So when you think about community, what are some things that people are not getting right in terms of building community? Because you have a lot of people, oh, I want subscribers, or I want, somebody to follow me on Facebook and things like that. But how did you make that shift to having it a community and for people to be on board with that?
Look, I think you've touched on something with the usual social media side of things is based on vanity metrics.
Mhm.
It's also based on metrics that are going to feed the algorithm, right? So people get into this rat race of this hamster wheel of chasing the numbers. But at the end of the day, like, I started the Kind Community Project just partly for, like, I was in recovery from my illness, partly as mental strength building for me, just to keep myself positive. I was sick of seeing the negative feeds, and I know how to manage my algorithm to make it positive, but it's still like it's a constant effort to do that because there's so much negativity there. And that's because as human beings, we have a negativity bias. It's also because the social media channels love feeding on that bias, and so do the news channels. So I just went, I had it up to here and went, sod it. I'm going to start my own. I don't care if it's just me.
Yeah.
So I guess I started the Kind Community Project for not for the vanity metrics at all. I started it for self care. And also just to connect with cool, kind people, because at the time I was also I couldn't go very far from the house, like
Mhm.
physically, my health wouldn't allow me. So um, I was like, well, I've got stuff to share with the world. How do I do this? So I thought, well, I'll do it digitally. And so, there's a big thing about coming together in person. Absolutely. That is the best option if you possibly can.
Mhm.
But if you cannot, there's nothing wrong with you and I connecting right here. Like, we've had some amazing conversations and I think we
Absolutely.
could talk for weeks. So,
Seriously,
and
I
I honestly feel like you and I could collaborate, no problem. So it's, and we, well, there's an example actually. Sorry to talk there, but
no.
um, the Kind Community Project. One of the things I do in there when it comes to collaboration, like, the whole platform is here to connect people who are
Yes.
interested in creating a kinder world. We
Mhm.
can do this much together, but we can do amazing things if we do it. Sorry, we can do this much on our own, but we can do amazing things if we do it together. So I've met people all around the world, and I'm working on a collaboration at the moment. Well, one, you and I right now,
Mhm.
but another one, another one that we're launching in April, which I would love to invite everyone to because
Yes.
it's super, super easy. And it's all about amplifying kindness, especially on LinkedIn. Now, we've chosen LinkedIn as a channel, but you can do it on others. And all you need to do is post an act of kindness between, I think it's the 20th of April and the 25th. I will share those dates with you
Mhm.
for real, but I think that's the time frame. Um, Share a post of something of kindness in action and put in the hashtag kindness counts, and it will come through to our kindness wall. And the more people doing that in that concentrated period of time, the more we can manage those algorithms on the other feeds. And I'll circle back to why I feel passionate about that. It's
Mhm.
because I want to shift the balance of the negative narrative and make it positive, because the more we make it normal to be kind, the more other people are going to follow in our footsteps, or feel comfortable. Like you said before, you come into a community and you might still feel afraid, but look, we're all feeling that. We're all feeling fear in some way, shape, or another. So and you never know who's been through what you're going through, who may be able to just lift you up when you need it. Or even if I haven't been through what you're going through, maybe it's just one thing that I notice about you on a certain day, LaChelle, that I go, I think LaChelle needs a little, little bit of encouragement today, or a little kind word, or a little tap on the shoulder to say, hey, I'm here.
I love
Just
that.
little things. And that's what the Kind Community Project is all about.
I
Just
love that. Yeah. Now, and that really resonates with me because, I have a lot of people in one household. We still have 9 of our 15 children that are at home. But my question is, not everybody is the same. We all have different learning styles. We have some of us like to be on video, some of us like to write and things of that nature. So, how do you navigate the differences, and still come together with the common goal to accomplish, because everybody is not going to resonate to the same message the same way. So, when you're really navigating through this community and keeping everybody aligned, what are some tips that you would give people about that?
Empathy. Empathy is massive, and it is a form of kindness, right? And so empathy is understanding what it's like to be in someone else's shoes, in the simplest way of
Mm-hmm.
putting it. And when you can do that, then you see things from their perspective. Now, you may not fully understand it, but generally, and empathy is about feeling. So, this is something that AI can't do, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in the aspects of humanity that AI cannot do. And empathy is one of those things. So, it's a core feeling. And if I can empathize, like I only met you last week.
Hmm.
um, we have connected because we're both mothers. We have connected because we're interested in kindness, and creating a kinder world. So even if we only connected on the fact that we're both mothers, we so many other different things. If we can find one little thread, and you know what? We've all got a thread. We're all human. That's it. We are all human. And so we're living in this world as humans with all the complexities that come with that. But I'm a firm believer in, I don't care where people come from, what they look like, what they believe in, that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, we're all human. And so we have that in common. And if we have to start at that very, very basic little piece, that starting point, then so be it. Now, sure, some people aren't going to subscribe to that, and that's fine. That's their choice. And that's something about the reason I call my business Choose the Toot is it's okay for other people to choose their toots. I choose mine, you choose yours, and that's okay.
I love that. That is just really a great philosophy because, I just think about, I was raised as a high achiever in school. And so that's all I know is the academics around, following a certain metric in order to get a certain grade and this programming. And when you are able to open up and see that other people do things differently, but it's still part of a tapestry of a quilt, if we're using that as an example. and it's all valuable and important. And, there was a lot of competition sometimes that's programmed in us to feel like, well, this person says it better, or, they need to do it better like this, or what they're doing is not enough. So being able to break away from that and accept people as they are, that really is something that if we're passionate about doing that, we can learn every day that they may not look the way we thought they would have looked if they, with certain talents and skills and things like that, because you just don't know a person until you have a conversation, right? A lot of these
Absolutely right.
things aren't on our forehead, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely right. And look, I've got a 13-year-old daughter, and there's all sorts of stuff that happens when you're in those teenage years, right?
mhm.
One of the biggest things that I'm trying to teach her at the moment is, which you just touched on, is there's no point in comparing yourself to someone else. You can only really meaningfully compare yourself to yourself. So as long as you are making progress from where you were to where you are today, that is a meaningful comparison. But comparing yourself to someone else, like me comparing myself to you, doesn't make any sense at all, because you grew up in America. I grew up in New Zealand. You have 15 kids. I have two. There are lots of things that we don't have in common. So why would I compare myself to someone else? It's like comparing an apple to a tomato, I
It's
guess.
true. It's so true. And I
Random,
mean, I
random
even I
analogy.
even I have this challenge with my own kids. They're in the same household, and I believe that everything is the same, but their, vantage point of how they see things is so different, right? I have daughters versus sons. That's another thing. They have a different vantage point. So
Yep.
I love that you mentioned that, because it just doesn't matter how much something looks like on the outside. We don't know what's inside unless we ask. And I love how, again, it's the person's ability to choose. And I think it's even, I've learned to ask better questions. Before I would just make my own assumptions. I would go off and think all these things to be true, and I hadn't said a thing to the person or asked them anything. It's just me running around with my own thoughts in my mind. But when we learn to ask those questions to get that insight, it opens us up to something totally different.
Yeah. Well, you've just touched on something. The reason I'm laughing is because the technical word for what you just described is
Mhm.
hallucination.
Right.
And it is a scientific word. So, and I also giggle a little bit because I see people talking about AI having hallucinations. Well, it's the same with us. We have
It's
them
true.
too. What we make up in our heads is a hallucination. Unless you know it to be a fact, it is a
Mhm.
hallucination. So,
I love that. Now, that's a mic drop right there, because I would say, really, I would be lost in this whole thought process. The person is right in front of me, and I've created this whole story, believing they're going to respond a certain way, hadn't asked them a thing. Right, and so it's all false on my side. So, yeah, totally resonate with that. I mean, I've done that. Do it with my kids, done it with my husband. I mean, it's just like people close to you, far away from you, doesn't matter. Nobody is off the hook with some of that stuff. So,
can
appreciate
I
that.
share? Sorry to jump in. Can I
Mhm.
share a little tip for you
Absolutely.
there? So,
Absolutely.
if 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 when you notice yourself doing that, the key is you need to be aware enough to notice yourself doing it. But when you
Mhm.
notice yourself doing that, stop and just go, is this a fact? How do I know this is a fact? And
Mhm.
that's enough just to interrupt the pattern in the head and for you to ground yourself and go, oh, actually, no, that was just me making it up in my head. Maybe I need to ask.
Mhm.
So just a simple little interrupt. Someone wants to join our conversation.
I know. I don't know what this happens. I'm telling you. I was saying earlier. Go. I was saying earlier that, my kids, they got a lot to see me doing things on camera during the pandemic. And so it's like, I really appreciated my brand, because it's like, okay, America's Supermom. So I have 15 kids, and hey, you may hear them in the background or whatever. And now it's like, lights on, the doors closed, it doesn't matter. "Hey, how are you doing?" And I'm like, "We're live." And they're like, "Okay." They wave, and some of them do. And my dog is the same. There was one time I was doing this interview with this gentleman, and it was really kinda sad for him because he had just lost his, pet. It was a dog he had, and he had had him for years. He was like a part of his brand and everything. And my dog was just on all he was just on my lap the entire time. He kept coming into the interview, and I thought, well, it really made the gentleman comfortable because he was like, "Oh, this is just brings back memories," or whatever, but I thought, "This is crazy."
That's empathy.
I couldn't get I
Your
couldn't
dog
get
was showing empathy.
I guess he really wanted to, share his, condolences and cheer him up or whatever, but, I mean, that whole interview, I was trying to put a pillow to move him over, I mean, everything. He was just the whole 30 minutes. I thought, "This is crazy." So, you never
That's
know what to expect with that. Now, for somebody to think about kindness, I find that when we model it, like what you're saying in your community, that is a way that you can attract people to what it is that you're doing, where they can get curious and want to be a part of it. So, what advice would you give someone? Because a lot of times when we feel like we're being kind, it's like there's not a lot of people doing it. Like what you said, it's in the news that it's negative, and a lot of these things on social media, just a lot of this stuff going on. So, what advice would you give somebody about understanding that the little that they may be measuring themselves as doing is really making an impact? In the world with kindness.
Yeah, well, I mean, do it not for the numbers, not for the likes, anything like that. Do it for yourself and do it for humanity. Like,
Mhm,
you're paying it forward every time you do something kind. And if we want to shift those algorithms, we need to share, cheer, and celebrate kindness. Now, that actually takes courage, as it turns
mhm,
out. What I've learned since I've been running the Kind Community Project is even the simplest little things, like we have kindness cards. If
mhm.
I ask someone to give out those kindness cards at an event, there's this moment where they're like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do that," um, but then they go and do it, and they get a dose of dopamine. So do the people that get the card. So does everyone around them. So that breaks the barriers. So have the courage to just go and be kind. And the little things really do matter. This is the wonderful thing about kindness. It is free, um, most of the time. Like, there are paid versions as well, but definitely the free ones are the ones that have the biggest impact. And a tiny little thing can make a massive difference to someone else. And I think we all know this, but what I'd love to see is more sharing and celebrating kindness publicly, so that it does become the expected norm, not an uncomfortable, "Oh, no, I can't possibly do that." It's not about, I think it's in the way that people do it. Like, some people feel really uncomfortable sharing their kindness because it feels, "Oh, look at me." But if
Mhm.
that is not your intention will if your intention is to absolutely 100% authentically be kind, it will come through. So don't worry, do what feels good to you or what feels right to you. And this is something I teach my kids all the time. Do what feels right to you in here. And if you do that, you can't get it wrong.
I love that, and I appreciate that approach because I think, we are so programmed to kind of think about the numbers and the masses that, we've kind of programmed ourselves to feel like if you're doing something that's a little bit, that it's really not going to have an impact. But the key is keeping on and being consistent with that little bit because you never know who's watching. Right? You never know who is, taking notice of the things that you're doing and what impact it could be on them in that moment. Because there are a lot of people that it's a bad day, but you do something that you're just genuinely just being yourself, and that person goes and posts it or they introduce you to somebody, it's a ripple effect, so I totally agree
Yeah.
with that. Hmm. Now, so it's, coming up to the end of the show. I tell you, it's just 30 minutes. It's not enough time. How can people connect with your community, and what things do you have coming up? You said that you have the thing in April. Are there any other
Mm.
things that people can do to support you, uh, especially now with Women's History Month?
Look, we have some always on things that happen. So we have the Heart Hands for Kindness campaign. Now, we can't do it, or we could probably do it like that today.
Hmm.
But the Heart Hands for Kindness campaign, yep, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. um, is about connecting, like me connecting my hand with you, you connecting your hand.
Oh.
So that it's not just me doing it, it's us connecting. And there's neuroscience behind that, connecting with someone else. And I believe one of the things that the world is missing right now, despite hyperconnectivity, we're not actually truly connecting with people. So I love what you're doing
Mhm.
here. Um, Couple of things I've got coming up. So, sorry, to answer your question, where to find me? Probably LinkedIn is the best place. Robin M. Simpson on LinkedIn. Um, I haven't started on Substack, so I'll let you know when I do.
I understand. I'm telling you, it's been a game changer for me. I'm telling
Yeah,
you. I'm like, I don't have a lot of time, but I love it. It is so easy, and what do I want to? They do a lot of the heavy lifting for you.
yeah,
It's amazing. Yeah.
cool. I'll
Hmm.
get there.
Hmm.
It's just another thing on my list at the moment.
It's another thing. Okay, you do have to
Yeah.
create a routine around it for sure.
Yeah. Probably the easiest way to get to the Kind Community Project is to go to choosethetode.com, and up in the navigation is the Kind Community Project, and it'll take you right there. And that's where I hang out a lot of the time. LinkedIn and the Kind Community Project is where I spend my time. And things that we've got going on, we actually have a micro giving program on all the time.
Mm.
So people that start a new collaboration, they end up, just because they've started a new collaboration in the Kind Community Project, that actually triggers some micro giving that helps. I think that one is educating kids in underdeveloped areas.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and then so it's making real impact. It's not just talking about it. It is actually making
mhm.
real impact. And we've got a whole lot of different things like that. And that's a partnership, that's a collaboration with B1G1. So it's very new, but that one is always on, and we're just looking for different ways to keep on adding those it's tiny, tiny
Yeah.
things that we do that can make an impact. So it's kind of bringing that into visibility and measuring it as well, and that's global. We have the Kindness Counts activation happening in April, and then we just have stuff going on all the time in the community. So, you know, come
I
check it
love
out.
that.
It's free, so come check
Yeah.
it out.
I love that. Well, I am so glad that we connected, that you came on, and I hope that those that are watching that they see that there's so many layers. 30 minutes is just not enough time to think about all
Mhm.
the things that we can do to support each other. And a lot of this is not even understanding the social currency that we have, simply showing up, simply sharing a post. I mean, commenting, because when you're doing things to impact and change the narrative around a lot of programming, every little bit adds up, for somebody to hear and respond to something that you're saying. Because, when you're live, such as this, I can get some input because we're on here together. But if I'm making a post or doing a live video on my own, you don't know. Is anybody hearing? Is this an echo chamber or what? So, really having people come and just share to encourage you, all that stuff really matters. So,
Yeah.
really appreciate you being here and love the work that you're doing. So I'm looking
Oh,
forward to us collaborating again in the future. And want to thank those that have joined us today. I'm not one that does a lot of being in the comments and interviewing at the same time.
Yeah,
because I
I do.
get distracted.
Yeah. I would like to shout out to Ember and Moon because she's been commenting and I have seen that through our conversation. So thank you, Ember and Moon.
Oh,
And thank you, LaChelle, for what you're doing and for inviting me onto the live. I will be more than happy to do this anytime. And I'm going to share this inside the Kind Community Project
oh,
too.
mhm.
So yes, yep. I think any little bit we can do to amplify others doing good work, then yay, let's do that.
And I think also, all it takes is a conversation. That's
Yep.
one of the reasons why I feel this is important because, we can get so caught up in how are we showing up on social media? Are we saying the right thing? Are we offering the right thing? But when we just have a conversation, people get a chance to see who we are and we just attract the right people to us. So that's
You've
the
just
thing that I love about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've just reminded me, I had a conversation with someone the other day, and it had been in the back of my mind to start my Kind Conversation series again. So
Mm.
I have actually decided to do it, and possibly two different versions.
Mhm.
And look, I love the unscripted chats.
Yes,
So that's what
yes,
they
me
will
too.
be, unscripted chats with interesting people
I
about
love that.
kindness.
I love that. Because what I found, this is how I started. It would stress me out trying to make sure that I got the questions to people ahead of time. And
Yeah.
then, it was just too much. And I'm like, look, we're just going to be organic. We're just going to have a conversation. And it went really good when I was able to do that. They felt comfortable. I felt comfortable. It wasn't like, all this pressure like, oh, I got to get all these things to him. And it was just like a bad science project every time that I felt like I had to do that. I just didn't feel free to be me. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that you said that. Now that's not for everybody, but I'm just saying for me, that's what works. Now, what final thoughts do you want to share with everybody today before we go?
Go out and today
Hmm.
this today, I would love everyone to go out and just send a kind message to someone. Connect with someone that you haven't connected with for a while and just send them a kind message just because.
I love that. Well, let's get out here, guys, and let's go share these kind messages. All it takes is one. You just never know who you may be helping, who you may be encouraging just from that kind word. So, again, Robin, thanks so much for joining today. And we want to thank you, Ember and Moon, for being here and joining us as well. And I just want to remind everybody it is Women's History Month. We have lots of events with the She Wins March campaign that we're running. So look out for that hashtag. And I want to remind you to go and be brilliant in the world today. Bye, everybody.
Bye.